This terrifying event should never have happened in our stable and predictable reality. With great hope, we pointed Earth's most powerful telescopes into the deep, dark cosmos in search of important answers. Astronomers have always been certain exactly what the natural voids between massive galactic filaments should look like. There is always at least a minimal amount of rarefied cosmic gas or wandering, solitary old stars present there. Perhaps we have been staring too long and too carelessly into this bottomless black abyss at the edge of the galaxy. Now, this cold, unknown void is beginning to stare back at us with an incredibly intense and terrifying silence. We cannot simply look away from this anomaly and forget its existence as if it were a terrible dream. It hangs there, vast and silent, constantly reminding us of our insignificant place in the hierarchy of the universe. And the most terrifying thing is that we have absolutely no idea what the ultimate goal of this grand intervention is. We see only the frightening consequences of a mechanism whose scale far exceeds our modest human imagination. This great gaping void may turn out to be only the first warning sign of an impending catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. We must grow up very quickly and realize the true extent of the threat hanging over the entire observable cosmos. According to all our good old tried and true rules, the boundless cosmos should be densely filled with diverse matter. Distant, massive stars constantly and predictably emit enormous amounts of life-giving light and powerful radiation. Giant gas clouds and clusters of cosmic dust smoothly form perfectly understandable physical astronomical structures. Every corner of observable space, even the darkest one, is inevitably permeated by dense streams of invisible thermal energy. Astronomers have always known exactly what any empty region of the night sky should look like. Even in the most desolate and cold voids between galaxies, relic cosmic radiation is always present. This is an ancient, faint, and very reliable echo left to us from the very first grand cosmic explosion. Our sensitive equipment easily and reliably detects this background heat everywhere, without a single exception. We have grown accustomed to proudly believing that the laws of classical physics operate absolutely identically at any point in space. Light always travels at a constant speed, and immense gravity smoothly and predictably warps the fabric of space-time. This pleasant stability allowed us to make bold and far-reaching plans for the future exploration of neighboring worlds. Humanity sincerely believed in its absolute safety within this logical and well-functioning cosmic clockwork. For decades, scientists meticulously compiled detailed, comprehensive maps of the distribution of matter in our local group of galaxies. In these beautiful digital diagrams, the cosmos resembles a gigantic, incredibly complex, and luminous web of life. Every fine thread of this network consists of millions of star systems bound together by mutual gravitational attraction. And in this harmonious and dense natural structure, there is absolutely no room for rough breaks or unnatural seams. It never even occurred to any serious scientist to look for places where the very laws of nature were completely absent. We sought complex answers to complex questions, fully confident in the strength of the very fabric of reality. Our human minds simply refused to entertain the very thought of a possible systemic failure in the architecture of the universe. We were too blinded by our own brilliant mathematical victories on a local, earthly scale. But this cozy illusion of complete physical control over the situation was doomed to a brutal and painful collapse. Our beautiful map of a universe teeming with life suddenly collided with a fact that cannot be logically explained. The great harmony of the spheres has cracked, and now our most hidden, primal fears are rushing into that fissure. The normal universe that we loved so dearly and studied so diligently turned out to be nothing more than a beautiful backdrop. But reality suddenly turned out to be completely different from what we had always presumptuously imagined. We directed our advanced instruments toward an unremarkable distant sector of the Eridanus constellation for a routine check. According to all preliminary calculations, there should have been a typical, very dense cluster of ancient galaxies there. But instead of the expected faint glow of billions of stars, the detectors recorded something that defied all logical explanation. This was not merely an ordinary region with low cosmic dust content or an absence of bright gas nebulae. Data from the orbital stations showed a complete and catastrophic drop in all energy readings to absolute zero. In this gigantic region of space, there was not a single photon, not even the slightest burst of radio waves. It was surgically clean, as if someone had carefully wiped this part of reality with a giant cosmic eraser. Here, however, we see the complete and traceless removal of a colossal volume of matter along with all its energetic traces. This does not resemble destruction. It is more like a deliberate and very precise formatting of space. Scientists tried to find at least some signs of gravitational lensing at the edges of this gigantic, terrifying abyss. Gravity should have distorted the light from stars located far beyond the boundaries of this anomaly when observed. But the light passed through this zone perfectly smoothly, as if there were no spatial structure there at all. The fabric of reality in this place was not simply stretched or torn, it literally ceased to exist. For the first time in our history, we encountered a place where the physical laws we were accustomed to simply ceased to function. This first discovered anomaly was a cold bucket of water thrown over our inflated human scientific ego. It clearly showed that we know absolutely nothing about the true nature of this vast and hostile world. And this terrifying realization was only the beginning of a looming global intellectual crisis. This incredibly strange and frighteningly precise geometry began to evoke the deepest existential anxiety in researchers. In the wild and untamed nature of the cosmos, perfect mathematical forms or straight lines are practically never found. Gas nebulae spread out in bizarre, jagged patterns, and entire galaxies twist into complex, chaotic spirals. But the spatial breach we discovered has a shape that suspiciously resembles a grandiose, entirely artificial construct. The only way to achieve such a result in a simulation is to artificially and forcibly remove a chunk of code from the program. You simply have to manually cut out a massive block of data responsible for an entire galactic sector. And this frightening comparison to the work of a systems programmer began to be heard more and more often in closed scientific discussions. The geometry of this colossal object literally screamed of an obvious, deliberate, and incredibly powerful external intervention. Such terrifying geometry forces us to completely rethink our views on the fundamental nature of emptiness itself. We have always naively considered a vacuum to be simply empty space, a vast stage for the grand dance of celestial bodies. But now it turns out that even this stage itself can be ruthlessly dismantled and removed by an unknown director. Absolute emptiness turned out not to be a passive backdrop, but a complex and extremely aggressive structure with perfect forms. We look at this perfect dark circle in the sky and see in it only a reflection of our own infinite ignorance. It is a grand and silent monument to an unknown force capable of reshaping reality itself at will. This force does not hide. It vividly demonstrates its incredible capabilities to us through frighteningly precise mathematics. We have received a message that our primitive minds are simply incapable of deciphering properly. But geometry is only the external visual aspect of this looming global cosmological catastrophe. The most terrifying and inexplicable discovery was the complete and traceless disappearance of a colossal volume of ancient energy. Hundreds of thousands of bright and massive galaxies were once definitely present in this carved-out piece of space. Their combined mass and energy should have left behind a deep and indelible gravitational trace. According to all the immutable laws of thermodynamics, matter and energy cannot simply be taken and completely destroyed. They can only be converted into a different, more dispersed state, such as thermal energy or faint light radiation. Any hypothetical supercivilization, even the most advanced one, must obey this fundamental and basic law of nature. The process of dismantling billions of star systems would inevitably release an amount of energy comparable to a supernova explosion. The disappearance of energy on such a grand scale directly points to a process we call information erasure. At the quantum level, every atom and every individual photon carries data about its long past. If you were to cut out an entire chunk of the universe, this valuable information would have to be carefully transferred or preserved somewhere. But this anomalous whole behaves as if someone had simply deleted the root folder in an operating system. Scientists, in deep despair, are trying to find at least some signs of where all this missing matter might have gone. They are exploring the farthest and most invisible boundaries of this void in the hope of finding clusters of compressed stellar debris. Bold theories are being put forward about the existence of wormholes through which entire galaxies have been transported to other dimensions. But all these complex conjectures come crashing down against the complete absence of any physical evidence on our monitors. We look at this energy void and clearly feel our absolute, pitiful, and primitive powerlessness. Humanity takes pride in its thermonuclear reactors and powerful hadron colliders, considering them the pinnacle of technological thought. But in the face of a force capable of dissolving entire galaxies without a trace, all our achievements look like children's toys. We are but specks of dust on the edge of a vast, universe-spanning vacuum cleaner ready to snap shut at any moment. But the situation became even more critical and frightening when we expanded the scope of our active search. At first, the entire global community sincerely hoped that this monstrous hole was one of a kind. Scientists reassured the public, calling this phenomenon simply a unique and localized cosmological anomaly in space. But the following months of continuous and thorough scans of the sky brought us absolutely devastating news. We began to find these terrifying empty anomalies of various sizes in completely different sectors of our galaxy. They appeared on our screens one after another, like ominous black spots on an old and worn-out X-ray film. Each of these newly discovered voids possessed the same impossible geometry and zero-energy background. This could no longer be attributed to mere chance or a temporary malfunction of the orbital equipment. The problem suddenly and rapidly ceased to be local, taking on the characteristics of a true global, universal epidemic. These strange and cold voids are arranged suspiciously uniformly in all known directions of observable space. They seem to form a gigantic, incredibly complex, and frighteningly regular three-dimensional grid around our world. Someone or something is systematically and ruthlessly cutting out chunks of space according to a strictly defined mathematical algorithm. Each new such patch of total emptiness irrevocably destroys a vast number of potential habitable worlds. The civilizations that might have existed in these sectors did not simply perish. They were erased from existence itself. This is unlike ordinary natural disasters, which merely kill fragile biological life on the surface of planets. This is the total annihilation of the very arena in which that fragile life could ever have unfolded. And we have absolutely no idea what exact strict criteria govern this brutal selection. We can only passively watch as our once cozy world slowly turns into Swiss cheese. This systemic expansion of the unknown is the most vivid and undeniable proof of our global vulnerability. We can no longer ignore this terrifying process by pretending that our cosmos remains safe and stable. This unknown destructive force is at work right now. methodically redrawing the map of the entire starry sky above our heads. And we have absolutely no way to stop this colossal mechanism or even begin to understand its true purpose. Every new void discovered deals an incredibly devastating blow to the very foundations of our fundamental physics. For decades, scientists around the world have painstakingly built the beautiful and logical edifice of modern theoretical cosmology. We took pride in our complex equations of general relativity and intricate quantum mathematical models. But now, this majestic intellectual edifice is rapidly crumbling under the weight of new, alarming observational facts. If entire chunks of vast space can simply vanish, then space is not an unshakable fundamental quantity. We have always regarded it as a sturdy and reliable canvas, upon which nature confidently paints its stellar pictures. But these incredible anomalies show that the canvas can easily be torn, crumpled, and thrown into the trash forever. This directly implies that our fundamental understanding of the very fabric of the universe is fundamentally flawed and naive. We find ourselves in a situation where any of our next scientific steps could lead to catastrophic logical paradoxes. If we acknowledge the fact of matter's traceless disappearance, we will have to completely rewrite all of modern terrestrial quantum mechanics. If we accept the possibility of instantaneous information deletion, we will destroy all the basic foundations of thermodynamics. The scientific community has found itself in a deep existential impasse from which no way out is yet in sight. We know absolutely nothing about the powerful processor and hidden microchips that actually control this image. And now, this unknown and powerful processor has clearly begun to generate critical system errors right in our sky. This profound scientific blindness is generating an incredible wave of genuine fear in society regarding the looming tomorrow. People have always trusted rigorous science, expecting clear answers and reliable protection from the chaos of nature. But now, the great scientists themselves publicly admit their complete and utter helplessness in the face of this cosmic mystery. The authority of the human mind has collapsed, leaving us alone with the primal, all-consuming horror of the unknown. We stand on the very ruins of our former cozy understanding of the world and gaze fearfully into this black abyss. We are no longer explorers confidently conquering nature with the power of our magnificent intellect and technology. We are simply frightened creatures who have suddenly realized that the home we live in could vanish at any moment. And our advanced science is utterly incapable of saving us from this tragic fate. If such vast and perfect swaths of immense space can vanish without a trace, what does that mean for us? We can no longer arrogantly consider our local star system a safe haven in this raging ocean. Our cozy little Earth, our bright, warm sun, and all the neighboring planets are just ordinary matter. We are absolutely unprotected from the effects of that unknown mechanism that methodically reshapes the voids. If this destructive force reaches our modest local galactic arm, we won't even have time to comprehend what's happening. Our sun won't explode in a beautiful supernova, and our oceans won't boil away from monstrous cosmic heat. We will simply cease to exist in an instant, along with the entire surrounding patch of space-time fabric. Our great Earth civilization will vanish just as quietly as those distant billions of ancient galaxies did. We desperately and fiercely fight over tiny patches of land on a planet that could vanish entirely at any moment. This cosmic threat lays bare the utter absurdity and incredible folly of our frantic human existence. Some philosophers urge us to accept this inevitability and simply enjoy every day we live. They argue that we cannot influence processes on a galactic scale in any way, so we should not think about them. But our inquisitive human nature simply does not allow us to give up without a desperate struggle for understanding. We are compelled to look this unknown cosmic horror straight in the eye, even if this knowledge is slowly driving us mad. We are trying to find at least some signs that this terrifying anomaly is approaching our system. Telescopes are continuously and intently scanning the stars closest to us for the slightest deviations in their radiation. These holes in space are our most likely future, vividly displayed to us in real time. We look at them and see in this absolute void our own inevitable and silent funeral. This void does not threaten us with weapons. It simply, slowly, and inexorably erases the very possibility of our existence. And there is nothing we can do about it. When classical astrophysics finally reached a dead end, the bleakest sociological theories took center stage. One of them frightens scientists the most, as it logically explains the incredible regularity of these anomalies. This theory posits that the voids are the result of the deliberate destruction of potentially dangerous advanced civilizations. Someone incredibly powerful and ancient is literally and methodically burning out entire sectors of space as a preventive measure. In the boundless universe, where survival is the primary goal of every species, fierce competition is absolutely inevitable. If a young civilization begins to develop technologically too quickly and too loudly, it becomes a direct threat. Our entire galaxy is paralyzed by a wild primal terror of this invisible cosmic cleaner. And only we, like incredibly foolish and naive children, continue to actively broadcast our signals in all directions. The eradication theory makes our current situation not just dangerous, but critically and hopelessly suicidal. For a century now, we have been continuously and very powerfully emitting signals in the radio spectrum, revealing our exact spatial coordinates. Our information bubble has already expanded to tens of light years, drawing the attention of predators to us. We have literally lit a huge signal fire right in the middle of a dark forest full of ruthless and ancient killers. Perhaps this unknown executioner has already accepted our open invitation and is slowly deploying its ultimate weapon. For systems of such gigantic scale, it may take many years to precisely target a new target. We are alive at this very moment only thanks to a temporary bureaucratic delay in the algorithms of this mechanism. But the very fact of our inevitable detection has already occurred, and the sentence is most likely final and irrevocable. Every new hole cut in the neighboring arms of the galaxy means that the cleansing of space is in full swing. This predator methodically destroys any potential pockets of technological resistance along its long path. It feels not the slightest pity for unique biological species and their great cultural achievements. For it, this is simply routine work to disinfect a vast cosmic territory of harmful and noisy elements. There is another, slightly less bloody, but no less humiliating and terrifying interpretation of these anomalies. What if these vast voids are not sites of destruction, but zones of the most brutal global quarantine? Higher intelligences might well have decided that certain aggressive civilizations are simply too dangerous for the rest of the cosmos, and instead of simply wiping them out, they carefully isolate them within completely impenetrable spatial blocks. To those left outside, we would simply vanish without a trace, turning into yet another dark, cold spot. And we, inside this cage, would be forced to gaze only at our lonely sun until the end of time. Any of our grand plans for long-distance interstellar travel will shatter against an invisible and cruel wall. This will be the final and irreversible end of any of our grandiose human space expansion. The thought that we could be imprisoned in such a cosmic prison at any moment weighs unbearably on the psyche. It completely renders meaningless any of our technological attempts to reach out to extraterrestrial intelligence. Any loud signal we send could be interpreted by observers as a symptom of an aggressive and dangerous disease, and the response would not be a friendly greeting, but immediate and very harsh global isolation of the sector. A quarantine zone is the most terrible punishment for the inquisitive human mind. which strives for infinite knowledge. We will stew in our own juices, slowly degenerating from the absence of new, grand cosmic goals. Our universe will shrink to the size of a tiny cell, the boundaries of which we won't even be able to properly perceive. This prospect of eternal confinement terrifies scientists and philosophers far more than rapid physical extinction. We await with dread the moment when invisible observers turn their attention to our Earth. We cannot prove to them our usefulness or our readiness for peaceful galactic coexistence. We are merely pathetic bacteria in their petri dish, which have begun to multiply too quickly and uncontrollably. And the likelihood of our imminent quarantine grows with every new and powerful radio telescope we point at the sky. But all these terrifying cosmic hypotheses pale in comparison to scientists' most profound and devastating hypothesis. What if our entire vast and enigmatic universe is not a truly physical and real entity? These perfect and terrifying voids bear a striking resemblance to critical errors in program code or dead pixels. They look as if the operating system of a giant supercomputer has simply stopped processing these sections of the location. The theory of digital simulation has long been seriously debated by physicists, but these holes have become its most direct proof. Nature is simply physically incapable of drawing such smooth geometric shapes and creating such perfect zeros. But for a computer algorithm, zeroing out a huge array of complex data is a matter of seconds and very easy. If the server is overloaded, the program simply erases the least important or problematic background processes. From the perspective of these invisible programmers, our local lives may be nothing more than a minor side script. We naively consider our sufferings and great discoveries to be something important, but we are simply lines of executable code. These gaps in space mean that the very system in which we operate is beginning to malfunction seriously. Perhaps the creator's hardware has become obsolete, and they are forced to free up resources by erasing entire galaxies. We are inside a sinking digital ship, where the cabins are slowly but surely being erased from the processor's memory. And we cannot even send a distress signal, since we do not know our creator's programming language. This theory completely and forever devalues all our material and great spiritual achievements. Why build ships and write poetry if tomorrow your piece of code will simply fall victim to a scheduled disk cleanup? These black, empty holes laugh at our pride, revealing to us the true, pixelated essence of our universe. We are merely digital guinea pigs in a grand experiment that seems to be nearing its sad conclusion. The digital cage of reality implies no mercy, no compassion, and no chance for further evolution. We will survive exactly until the moment when the execution of our script is deemed impractical by its creators. After that, the same mathematically perfect and utterly cold void awaits us that we now observe through telescopes. We have reached the very edge of our human understanding and peered behind the dense veil of familiar reality. And what we discovered there with horror has forever and irrevocably changed the course of our long history. The great, living, and wonder-filled universe turned out to be a cruel illusion, concealing terrifying mechanisms of destruction. These grandiose gaping holes in space have become the gravediggers of our former naive scientific romanticism and optimism. The realization of this fact weighs as a heavy, unbearable burden on the collective psyche of all thinking humanity. We are forced to wake up every morning with the clear understanding that this day could mark the systemic end of everything. This crushing sense of helplessness paralyzes our will for further large-scale technological and cultural development. We have become a species that simply waits passively and in horror for the execution of its death sentence. Now we look at the night sky, studded with bright stars, through completely different eyes. eyes filled with genuine terror. In this endless, beautiful darkness, we see not new possibilities, but only our own impending death. The universe no longer seems like a welcoming home to us. It has turned into a vast, cold, and slowly closing trap. And we, unfortunately, are already too deep inside to ever try to escape it. Researchers around the world sincerely expected to see the familiar picture of billions of shining ancient galaxies. But instead, our advanced instruments suddenly detected something utterly terrifying, unnatural, and completely illogical.